An ABC News brief. Now from Washington, Ted Koppel.
Good evening. The Soviet Communist Party conference ended today after voting reforms that include limiting all party officials to 10 years in office and creating a stronger presidency. Soviet leader Gorbachev said reforms will begin before the year ends. Defense Secretary Carlucci has frozen payments on $1 billion worth of defense contracts that may be tainted because of the Pentagon scandal. Next on 2020, people breaking the law to house the homeless.
Making fried chicken means toting a heavy skillet and slopping up your kitchen. Children, what we're talking is not fun. So get some Church's chicken instead. Big pieces of crispy chicken, they don't cost a lot. So someone expects you to cook when there is Church's chicken? Well, pick up that old skillet and you persuade them otherwise.
Get Church's 10-piece family feast with corn for only $9.99.
Toyota savings explode! Through the 4th of July, get $1,000 rebates from the Toyota factory distributor on all new Camry LE sedans and wagons. $1,000 cash back on the versatile, reliable Camry. Plus, dealers have special 4th of July savings throughout their inventories, including $1,000 rebates on all these new half-ton standard bed Toyota trucks. $1,000 rebates on Camrys, $1,000 on trucks. But hurry, Toyota dealers definitely cut this offer off July 4th.
Baseball, racing, and tennis. Chuck has it all at 11.
Good evening, I'm Hugh Downs. Barbara Walters is on assignment tonight. This is 2020.
On the ABC News Magazine, 2020 with Hugh Downs and Barbara Walters. Tonight, the true story of the man made famous by this commercial.
When Bill Denby was in Vietnam, he used to dream of coming home and playing a little basketball with the guys.
Injured in Vietnam, he was left a double amputee.
You know, I looked up to the sky and I asked, why me?
But new technology turned his life around. Bob Brown with the amazing story of Bill Denby back in the game. In Atlanta, young professionals working after hours. On weekends, they're breaking the law to build housing for the homeless.
We can't just sit back and be apathetic hoping someone else is going to take care of the problem.
Searching out the needy, in their cat holes, in their cardboard boxes, providing them a place to call home. Stone Phillips on the gang known as the Mad Housers. And film critics Siskel and Ebert. With their own hit show, they're better known than many of the stars they review. But while they love their jobs, they seem to hate each other.
It's been my mission since I was 23 years old to beat him.
We didn't speak to each other at all the first 9 years that we knew each other.
How did they team up? And what are their summer movie picks? Lynn Scher, inside the world of Siskel and Ebert.
If you make a list of the buzzwords to sum up the 80s, it has to include yuppies and the homeless. Now, beyond that, the two groups have nothing in common. So it's pretty ironic that some yuppie types in Atlanta are suddenly being called heroes because of how they're helping the city's homeless. Now, they caught our attention because what they're doing, first of all, what they're doing is technically against the law, and it's certainly unorthodox, but it's helpful. Now, as Stone Phillips reports, these young people readily admit that their effort is only a quick fix. More significant is the message their actions carry. The homeless problem won't go away till the homeless have somewhere to go.
His co-conspirators call him the instigator. 29-year-old Mike Connor was an architecture student at Georgia Tech, designing a shelter for homeless men when his school project became an after-school obsession. He recruited every friend he could find, asking young bankers, industrial designers, and fellow architects to give up their weekends to break the law, to trespass on city-owned property and put up buildings that no city housing inspector in the country would approve. Today, the site is a small patch of woods just 10 minutes from downtown Atlanta. And despite the rain, this small architectural wonder is nearly finished. In less than 20 minutes, another homeless person has a place to live. Later that night at Manuel's, a local bar, the Madhousers toast the building of their 28th hut. Mike Connor's blueprint for helping the homeless has caught on.
It's not a solution. It's a stopgap measure, but as stopgap measures go, it's very good. It does provide a person with his own space, his own sense of personal identity, which these large shelters that have 300 people sleeping on a cot, they don't do it.
What the Madhausers offer is an alternative for Atlanta's homeless, who live not only on the streets here, but camped out in the hundreds of small wooded areas that are literally nestled between the shopping malls and office complexes.
So it's holding up all right out here?
Yeah,
Looks like
it's working quite well.
They ask a lot of questions to learn about these people, not to judge them. Bob claims to be a former college professor.
This is sort of my own little sanctuary up here, you know. It's secluded in the middle of a big city, and I'm used to mountains anyway.
Can you show us inside? The Madhausers say they don't care whether or not these people seem to be doing much to help themselves. That's not going to stop them from building the huts.
Not much to speak of right now.
No one gets screened out.
You got some places to hang your clothes? Oh, yeah. Some place to sleep. That's all I need.
But, you know, I'm curious what it was like when you first began. And you walked up to these homeless people. I mean, let's face it, a bunch of nice-looking yuppies, and said, you know, we're here to help. What can we do? What was their reaction? Mike?
Well, the first reaction was skepticism, and the guys would ask us, well, how much is this going to cost me? Are you going to preach to me? You know, we'd say, no, we're just going to build you a hut if you want one. And once we established a trust, they said, yeah, build one for me right here.
And yet, it's not a permanent solution, is it?
Oh, of course not. And we don't profess it to be a permanent solution. It's a Band-Aid solution until something is done.
I think this door used to be one of my drafting tables.
Frank is a successful young architect and one of the first Madhausers.
There's not a lot to explain here in terms of the architectural detail, but what else can you tell me? I mean, the structure is just a basic...
Well, architecturally, we sought to really build something that said house, you know, a symbol. You know, that's why we start out with a gable, so that it really feels much, you know, less like a box and more like a home. Right.
The huts measure just 6 by 8 feet, just enough room for a single mattress and a small table. But as the Madhausers point out, the huts aren't meant to be permanent homes, just a small step up for the homeless.
The kinds of simple housing they build with no plumbing and no electricity cannot be considered an answer to the problem.
Atlanta's mayor, Andrew Young, are they breaking the law?
Yeah, but that's the kind of civil disobedience of which I approve. Suddenly, here's a group of young people who don't want to be just concerned about themselves, but who say, I'm a college student, I don't have all the answers, but doggone it, I'm going to do something.
I've never been in these places, so we could probably go in there and find guys.
The first step for the Madhausers is finding the homeless.
Somebody lives here, all right.
Despite the mayor's unofficial encouragement, the Madhausers are not allowed to work through city-run agencies to meet the people they call their clients. Today, Diane, Brian, and Cabell are on a routine search, looking for cat holes in abandoned buildings where many of Atlanta's 8,000 homeless people live.
Yeah, we're just learning how to hammer them nails.
They found Ed nearby, along the railroad track.
There's 3 people living here?
Let me see. Well, we got one living in the little coffin box there. That'd be BJ.
Right.
And 3 in this one.
3?
So that's 4. Yeah, it's a tight squeeze, but we know each other, so nobody complain.
The next step is finding out if they're interested.
Sometimes we'll give each person their own hut, depending on what you would prefer.
Well, I'm living on the street. I don't get a chance to prefer nothing.
I was afraid of meeting up with these people. I had the image of them being violent and not a good place for me to be. But once we started going out and meeting the people, I found out that they are just normal people with hard times.
Ed, do you have family anywhere?
Yeah, I got family.
Are they here in town?
No, I'm not from here.
Where are you from?
Recently, Florida. I got family down there. They're doing pretty good. But what they're doing is not what I'm doing. I don't impose on my family.
As soon as you meet one and talk to one, it changes the whole issue for you, and then you start to wonder, what can I do? Just me. You know, this is just another guy. This is between me and him. I can probably help him out just like this.
So many of the men that I've talked to have the same story. You know, a horrible divorce, or something like that. Also, a large number of them report some kind of child abuse, some kind of horrible childhood, where they were institutionalized at a young age. That kind of thing is what's going on out there.
Cabell followed another homeless man into a deserted downtown factory building. Al says by homeless standards, this place was a real find.
I figure it's about the best catto that we ever found.
No kidding. I mean, it's great compared to a lot of places I've
Yeah.
seen. Does anyone know you're up here?
But Al's problem is that the building is scheduled for demolition.
When they do tear this place down, you don't have a place to go.
Yeah, that's
Then
true.
we can build you one of the huts.
What I want is just a place of my own and to sit back. I don't want to be on the streets when I turn 50 years old and regret it and still being out here.
Over the past several weeks, the Madhausers have been most concerned about the homeless living here, in these shacks beneath the highway, just behind Atlanta's Convention Center, the site for this year's Democratic National Convention.
How long you been over here?
When the convention opens this month, an eviction notice will already have been served to these homeless men.
That's my phone number. I got a recorder on it, so you can call anytime, day or night, and leave a message.
Archie says city officials have already told him that this area must be secured, that he'll have to move or be moved.
See, everybody got to make a new location, right?
So where are you going to go?
Where I'm going.
Where are you going to go?
I got to find a job, for one thing. I know this.
And you got to find another place to live.
That's right.
Archie told us what he wants most is to go back and live with his family. But first he needs a job.
How'd you lose your family, Archie?
How'd I lose? No job. I wish I ain't go home. Really. Shame to go home.
Where is your family right now?
You tell me.
To build as many huts as quickly as possible, the Madhausers assemble the floors and the walls beforehand at a warehouse. This prefabbing also enables the Madhausers to build and get out fast, since technically they're trespassing. The warehouse itself was donated by a friend. In fact, most of the materials are donated or collected from scrap piles. And as the donations increase, the price per hut decreases. The Madhausers can build one for just $40, most of that money coming from their own pockets.
This is supposed to be the me generation. What's going on here, right?
Not anymore. Last few years in the 70s and the early 80s, it was a me generation. But I think people are starting to become more aware of their surroundings, what's going on. And part of that involves homeless.
Today, they're building a hut for George, a Vietnam veteran and former truck driver.
Come over on that side.
Like all of the people they build for, George is expected to help out in whatever way he can.
Yeah, turn this so it's towards you.
The site George picked for his hut is behind a shopping mall in the same patch of woods where he's been camped out for 4 years.
George, how would you describe where you're living right now?
You want to tell you the truth about it? Hellhole.
What's the biggest problem over there where you're staying?
Going home. If you call that home. Because you ain't got anything else to do except just go there and lay down, and that's it. And I hate to go there and lay down all the time.
When it rains?
When it rains, you can't get out. You have to lay there straight on your back or your side or whatever you can do.
George, tell me a little bit about yourself.
What do you want to know about me?
Well, how'd you get to this point?
Well, to tell you the truth, I don't really know. I was working good there for a while. And see, like I said, it all started out about last year. When it started going downhill for most of it.
What happened? Why did it start going downhill for you?
Well, see, I got my butt whooped, got some broke ribs, and I couldn't do anything else.
You got into a fight?
Well, yeah, my wife left with this other guy. And so, been downhill ever since.
George, when you see all these young people over here hammering and sawing and building, what do you think?
It's amazing. Because I have never seen kids, you know, really take that much interest in people like me.
About ready, huh?
I'm on a roof. To the Madhausers, it's like an old-time house-raising party. The way people used to build houses in this country. Everyone pitching in to get the job done.
I think the thing that's going to go on for 3 or 10 years, or however long it takes to take care of this problem, is the idea.
Take care of yourself.
Take it easy, man.
We'll be back to
That
check up
all
on
of
it.
us, different people, we can go out and in one day we can make an incredible change in somebody's life.
And I appreciate all of it, man.
In less than 20 minutes, the Madhausers have completed their 29th hut. Then it's back to manuals to make plans for hut number 30.
We got to do something. We can't just sit back and be apathetic hoping someone else is going to take care of the problem, because no one is going to do it. Everybody has to start doing something.
It's quite a project.
It is.
Is it having an impact in the overall picture?
Well, Hugh, the Madhausers have brought a lot of attention to the homeless problem in Atlanta, and now they've taken all of this a step further. They have incorporated themselves as nonprofit builders, and they've approached the city with plans for a whole subdivision of what they're calling bungalows, upgraded up-to-code housing with kitchens and plumbing and heat.
That'd be a lot more expensive, of course.
Well, it would be. Of course, they were building these huts for about $40 a piece. These new ones would be about $10,000 a piece, but the city is encouraging the Madhausers to apply for a grant to cover it.
Marvelous. Thank you, Stone. Well, still ahead, two of the quickest wits around, but they're not comics, they are film critics. Lynn Scher with Siskel and Ebert. First, though, are you one of those who's been impressed by the man in this commercial? He's Bill Denby, and Bob Brown has his story. Back in the game.
"2020", brought to you by Kellogg's Nutri-Grain cereal.
Morning. What, no kiss?
Oh, sorry. Lips that touch sugar and preservatives will never touch mine.
Okay.
No. Oh, I want real commitment.
Nutri-Grain?
New Kellogg's Nutri-Grain biscuits.
Biscuits?
Think positive.
Oh, no sugar added. No salt, no preservatives. I'm positive I'm going to hate this.
Introducing the only shredded wheat with no preservatives. Nutri-Grain biscuits.
Okay. Now let's talk commitment.
New Nutri-Grain biscuits.
Let me give you another reason why a small business person will work with AT&T. Now, if you're a big Fortune 500 company, you probably got the opportunity to have a big staff. You hire your own experts. But if you're a small businessman, you can't afford to hire your own communication experts. Where do you go to get those people who can help you build a network to serve your customers the way one of the biggest companies in America goes? You have very limited choices. You want to get highly skilled, knowledgeable people who can help you apply that technology to your business. That's what AT&T brings.
Here comes tomorrow's front page. Sorry, gorgeous. Just making my editor happy. Table for two. Think we have a story. And what are we serving? Seagram's Extra with the extra splash of fruit. You are cool. Oh, that looks so refreshing. Stop, you're killing me. I'm taking the night off.
Refreshing new Seagram's Extra.
Big news! McDonald's Supersize Cups now feature the stars of Who Framed Roger Rabbit.
I'm a coon.
Now at McDonald's, for a limited engagement, appearing on 3 different supersized Coca-Cola cups, the stars of the new movie, Who Framed Roger Rabbit.
Good time, great taste. Supersize makes it my place. The good time, great taste of McDonald's. Big fun!
Ah, the joys of getting ready for summer vacation. So much to fit in, so many details to remember. That's why it's nice to know Holiday Inn hotels are always there, with everything you want in a vacation hotel. Now with summer great rates, enjoy it all for only $29, $39, or $49. But get going, rooms are limited. Call now for summer great rates at a great vacation hotel.
Convention 88. For most TV stations, coverage is just beginning. At Channel 2, coverage began over a year ago. Channel 2 political reporter Bill Nigut has logged 100,000 miles on the campaign trails of every major candidate. Channel 2 reporters have been covering the impact of Convention 88 on the city for the last year. Combine that with North Georgia's #1 news team. News anchors Monica Kaufman, Don Farmer, and Chris Curl. And you've got the kind of coverage you expect from North Georgia's news leader. Channel 2's Action News. We're ready now.
Every so often, a TV commercial comes along that really manages to capture the public imagination. Some examples. Wendy's.
Where's the beef? At Wendy's, we say.
And the Federal Express ad that featured this hapless jabbermouth.
David's a deal with Don, Doc, Dick. Doc, it's a deal with Dave, Dick, and Dave. Don, it's a doc with Dick, Dave, and Doc. Gotta go, Dave.
It was the wackiness of those spots that made them stand out. More recently, though, a very poignant commercial has people talking. And it features the man you're about to meet. He is not an actor, nor are the other people in his commercial. But as Bob Brown reports, Bill Demby was exactly what the sponsor wanted.
In the few seconds it takes to watch this commercial, millions of people have learned a little about Bill Demby. He is a Vietnam veteran who lost both legs in the war and came back to reclaim a remarkably active life. The commercial advertises DuPont research, in this case a plastic product that contributed to a breakthrough in the artificial feet that allowed Demby to jump and move quickly. Demby is a quiet man who was suddenly thrust into the national spotlight by this commercial, by the sight of him getting up from a hard fall to play basketball again on artificial legs.
As the commercial says, Bill Demby's back, and he is an inspiration to us all.
He has become a symbol of the strengths of disabled people. This long ovation for him came during a pro basketball game at Madison Square Garden. His story is an example of the shock, the denial, and the recovery that for him began 17 years ago as a soldier in Vietnam when he was caught in an attack that ended any hopes of a career in professional athletics.
I was driving a truck down, coming back down from the Laos border. I slowed down, and that's when they fired the rocket on the truck, and it hit the door. And it amputated the first leg immediately, the left leg immediately, and the right one was amputated back at the field hospital. You know, I looked up to the sky and I asked, why me? Of all people, why me?
Here at Walter Reed Army Hospital in Washington, Demby spent a year in rehabilitation. He remembers this place as a kind of sanctuary where disabled war veterans understood and took care of each other. Today, when he comes for regular medical care, he visits recent amputees who may not know at first that his own legs are artificial.
Yeah, 17 years ago.
You come through here?
Yep.
He has worked hard for that appearance because of reactions he felt when he left this hospital in the early 70s.
And I saw a lot of this when I first got out of the Walter Reed Hospital and went back home in my wheelchair, is that I saw a mother who would, once the child made a statement like, look, Mommy, that man has no legs, she'd jerk him down the street. Shut up, don't do this, don't point, don't, look. Right away, that plants a seed in that child's mind that he's not to associate with anyone with a disability. I just could not adjust with the people looking, whispering, staring, pointing, that sort of thing. And as small as it may seem to you, it was very big to me, or very big to anyone who's disabled. So that's when I turned to the drugs and the alcohol adjusting. I don't think a lot of people knew, because I did it when I was mostly by myself.
So you'd get up in the morning?
So I'd get up in the morning, nothing to do, soap operas. They were driving me up a wall, and I'd go down to the local bar as soon as it opened, and what few guys were hanging out, that's where I hung out at, all day long and half the night. And obviously I wasn't just hanging out there, I'd started to drink, and I drank more and more each time.
It was a difficult period of adjustment for a man who had once been captain of his high school basketball team, who had at least been able to hope that he could play professionally. Friends coaxed him back into participating in athletics for the disabled, and one of the first sports he learned as a double amputee was skiing.
How important were sports in bringing you back?
Probably if it hadn't have been for the sports, I don't think Bill Denby would be here. I may be that statistic that's still sitting home, exercising my wrists or doing whatever. I think I would probably cease to exist.
Driving it through the hill.
In the meantime, after the Vietnam era, the Veterans Administration was pushing research into devices that would allow young disabled men like Bill Denby to become even more active.
Give me one more. Let's get another one in him.
And that's where this small company in Seattle comes into the picture. It was working on a breakthrough in prosthetic devices with the aid of VA-funded research. Designers were taking two unusual approaches. One was to make an artificial foot that actually looked like a human foot instead of a shoe mold. The other was to make it act like a human foot by putting what's called a keel inside it, a device that actually adds natural bounce to a step. It's the thin, white, springboard-shaped piece of plastic you see inside this flesh-colored model, and it gives this foot energy. Designer Dave Moeller.
A person like Bill Denby can, at his body weight, jump and play basketball, land on the ball of his foot, and this spring will deflect up similar to a diving board, and then that stored energy will return and rebound him into the air, basically.
Off the ground. That's it. Good.
It was dubbed the Seattle foot, and it was tailor-made for an athlete like Denby. He became one of the first to use it. It put spring back into his moves and allowed Bill Denby to jump again. The foot quickly became a valuable tool for Denby in competitions such as this one, the National Amputee Games. And even more importantly for him, these are the games where Denby was discovered a year ago by advertising representatives looking for people who had benefited from DuPont Corporation technology. Even though DuPont had not made his artificial foot, the inner keel, the part that provides the spring, was made of a DuPont plastic called Delrin. And there was no one better than Bill Denby to show how valuable a product it could be. How an amputee who had dreamed of playing pro basketball could now hold his own on one of the toughest courts of all, a New York City playground.
When we first started filming the commercial, it was one of those things where they were very timid with me. You know, it's like I was glass and I was going to break. And so I had to go out and actually, when a guy first throws the ball to me, it was so timid, and I threw it back to him hard. And I said, you know, if you're going to play basketball, let's play basketball.
For people who have seen you play in the commercial, is there any way to describe how it feels to walk or to play basketball on those legs and those feet?
That's a hard question. It's strange because you know here that you can do something, or you used to do something, and the little movements of the ankle movements, little things that you can't do now because you don't have an ankle. Just a strange feeling. Usually you're using the calf and the ankle to do all the springing or all the jumping. I use my thigh muscles to help me to do that. So it's a little different.
Denby still enjoys wheelchair basketball, too. Here, some of the players are disabled, but some are able-bodied youngsters who were invited to compete so they can get a sense of the quickness and athletic ability it takes to play this game.
You guys like girls? Yeah. I like them too.
Denby works for the Howard County Disability Awareness Program in Maryland, where he lives, taking time to make frequent appearances in schools so that children will begin to focus not on the differences of the disabled, but on the similarities.
I like those things too. So you see, we're more alike than we are different.
But Denby, who is married and has a young daughter, is also straightforward about how he deals with his life.
Are you ever offended when people ask you questions about your artificial legs?
You mean just like the one you're asking? Yes, I'm offended. No. No, I'm not offended because I think if you want to know about something, you have to ask the question. Okay. Yes, ma'am. Most of them would like to see my legs, and I show them to them. I explain what it's like to have to put these on every morning before I make a move, or else crawl around on my hands and knees around my house, or get in a wheelchair and roll around my house.
What's the most unusual question you've ever been asked?
The most unusual one, I was at the last school, a young man got up and asked me, what did my wife say or think the first time she went to bed with me? And I was sort of stunned because I thought I had heard it all after 3 or 4 years, and I didn't know what to tell him. And finally I come up with the answer of, she said, "It works." And, you know, we got a laugh, you know, and so that sort of took away some of the seriousness, and yet we were serious.
Yes, we're all special, special as can be.
Demby doesn't have to work if he doesn't want to. He earns a veteran's disability pension. He works because he has goals. To see that children don't form the prejudices and fears about the disabled that he had to confront. And ultimately, to see disabled people accepted as true athletes. He is now helping raise money to send a national team to the Paralympics, which will follow the Summer Olympics in Seoul, Korea. Demby himself has qualified to go with the team as a gold medal winner in this year's National Amputee Games in both the javelin and shot put.
It's funny that, you know, I started to do a lot of things when I became disabled, more so than I did when I was walking around with 2 good legs on. And that's sort of strange. And again, that someone is, or something is directing me down a certain avenue, because now I've become, I guess you might say, a spokesperson for the disabled, trying to make people aware. The message is in the commercial is just not for disabled people. It's for everyone. A guy who's 45 and loses his job and says, geez, I've done this all my life, what else am I gonna do? I hope he can see the commercial and say, well, maybe I can retrain myself for something. You need to be able to have the heart to get out and make that first step. You have to try.
That is real heroism, I think. That commercial, by the way, was an award winner.
Just recently won a Clio, which for a commercial is like an Academy Award or an Emmy.
Bob, how far has he gotten with having these people accepted as real athletes, which they are, and in raising money from sponsors?
Well, they've run into a problem there. As you know, they are trying to send a team to Seoul, Korea to compete in games that will feature 60 nations following the Olympics. But so far, about all they have is letter after letter of rejection from corporations that they've asked for contributions. They just haven't had very much success at all in that fundraising effort.
Well, maybe soon they'll begin to be successful in it, I think.
I hope so, because once you've seen Bill Demby and others like him, you do realize that they are real athletes and they go through training that's just as intense as any other kind of athletic training you'd have.
Thank you, Bob. Well, next, the Laurel and Hardy of film critics, Siskel and Ebert. They trade insults, they zing superstars, and they even manage to review some movies. Lynn Scher reports right after this.
Next time you rent a car, be sure to use Gold MasterCard and be covered with Master Rental, the insurance that includes what American Express left out. Because only Master Rental covers more than just collision damage and loss. It covers your stolen luggage and something even more important, you. So for the best car rental insurance any card offers, use the world's #1 gold card, Gold MasterCard. Choose the gold card that makes a difference.
The nutrition in Kellogg's Mini Wheats helps keep me strong and limber, but the kid in me loves the frosted side as much as chopping timber!
Now Kellogg's Frosted Mini Wheats makes room for something new. New bite size. Shredded wheat nutrition, great taste too. Now even more fit on a spoon.
The shredded wheat nutrition helps me keep the beat, but the kid in me finds the tasty frosting knocks me off my feet.
Kellogg's Frosted Mini Wheats, original and new bite size.
Hon, about the new air conditioning system.
I'll take care of it.
Well, I did a little checking around myself, and...
A little?
I think we should get an Amana.
Amana? Look, you don't just open the phone book and stop at the A's. I mean, you gotta do research.
Amana's dependable. It'll last us years, and it'll lower our cooling costs.
Fine. But I think you better let me look into this, huh?
Fine.
Yeah.
Maybe these will help.
Well, that's a start. Yeah.
When you know exactly what you want, Amana.
These very special meats are lean and low in calories. But like everything we make, they're very big on taste. There's a name for food this good. Hormel.
Film critics Siskel and Ebert telling America what movies to see. But do they ever listen to each other?
What about the movie? What about the dialogue? What about the characters? What about the world?
Lynn Sher behind the scenes with Siskel and Ebert when 2020 continues.
More Americans get their news from ABC News, and Koppel, Walters, Donaldson, Downs, Brinkley, and Peter Jennings are some of the reasons why you can expect the world of ABC News.
I'm Don Farmer in the Channel 2 newsroom. Tonight on Action News at 11, the verdict is in, and Rudy Bromley will not go to the electric chair for murdering 11-year-old Amy Holman. Our Jeff Dorr will have a live report from Gainesville. 2 suspects in the murder of a richest security guard are in jail in St. Louis. Kimberly Kennedy has that story. Defense Secretary Carlucci postpones $1 billion in defense contract payments as the scandal investigation continues. If you live in Stone Mountain and want to take a shower tonight, well, you can. We'll update the water problem at 11.
That's Channel 2's Action News, coming up tonight at 11.
British Airways Concorde, you are clear for takeoff.
Last year, more international passengers chose to fly with British Airways than with any other airline. In fact, last year, British Airways planes traveled over 150 million miles. That's further than from Earth to Mars and back. British Airways, the world's favorite airline.
It's here, Tluskin's Level Or Truckload Sale. Factory authorized, every size made, at the year's lowest prices. Don't miss it. Sale ends Wednesday.
See Dynasty's John James in the Salute to America Parade, July 4th.
We could have billed this next report as Siskel and Ebert, the sequel. Last January, Lynn Sher profiled the Chicago-based film critics whose success on TV has made them stars in their own right. And now that the summer movie crop has arrived, what better time to see again how critics Siskel and Ebert approach their work and each other. So first we'll look at some of Lynn's original report, and then we'll get to the sequel.
Chicago, 9:30 a.m. The gladiators are entering the arena. You are about to witness a showdown.
One, two, three. But that's not fair because I got you. You see, you can sit
Score one for Gene Siskel in his weekly face-off with his television partner and professional adversary, Roger Ebert. They're here to tape their popular TV show about movies. Perhaps you recognize their thumbs, the ones they've made famous with their TV reviews.
2 thumbs up for Steve Martin's
Up means they
Roxanne.
liked the movie. Down means they didn't. On that much they agree. Most everything else gets the duel of egos going all over again.
Where did the thumbs idea come from?
Boy, I don't remember.
I came up with that idea. And before me, the Romans.
Off camera, both men are movie critics for competing Chicago newspapers. Siskel's with the Tribune, Ebert the Sun-Times. And in a city where journalism wars mean going for the jugular, these two began their own private battle.
It's been my mission since I was 23 years old to beat him. That's 18 years ago. He is the one person in Chicago that I must destroy in print.
We didn't speak to each other at all the first 9 years that we knew each other, before we started doing the show. We were film critics here in Chicago. We would walk to the screenings together, walk into the screening rooms, probably side by side, go up and down in elevators without ever exchanging a word. And then they asked us if we would like to do this show with each other, and my original response was no. What do I have to do a show with Gene Siskel for? I can do a show all by myself.
The name of our show is opening soon at a theater near you. And this is Roger Ebert, the film critic from the Chicago Sun-Times.
And right over here is Gene Siskel, the film
They premiered on public television in 1975. At the time, both had more hair and less taste in clothes. But it was a beginning.
When we come back, we'll review Men Out of the
Today,
Spring.
the format that Siskel and Ebert pioneered, a half-hour show consisting only of movie reviews, has become so successful it's been copied by other teams. And a thumbs-up review from them is coveted by movie makers as a way to help guarantee crowds. Here's how the show works. Each movie review opens with a clip. Then one guy gives his opinion.
And reminded me more of World War II war movies than of the special war in Vietnam.
What follows is what really counts. Siskel and Ebert call it crosstalk.
See, not a bad movie, but it's not original and it's not a masterpiece.
Oh, I think it's very original and very close to being a masterpiece. I mean,
In fact, it is unscripted, unrehearsed, unmitigated war.
and then when I see a sniper go on an American and Kubrick has his camera push in, I feel for the first time people getting attacked.
That is a cliche, Gene. I mean,
No.
when I saw that push, I was so disappointed in Kubrick. This whole sequence is taken right out of absolutely routine grade B Republic,
Roger,
World War II war movies of guys running out there to try to save their buddy and somebody else shooting at them.
I have never felt a kill in a movie quite like that.
When you disagree on a movie, you're not disagreeing on the movie, you're disagreeing on who you are. You see, if I don't like a movie, and he does, then I'm not saying, you know, that the movie is flawed or that the movie isn't flawed. I'm saying that he's flawed. There's a flaw in his character that makes him like that movie. And so basically, it's a very personal thing.
What about the movie? What about the dialogue? What about the characters? What about the world?
There is sometimes hostility. We are sometimes extremely angry with each other. And this is based upon the fact that we are completely incompatible in terms of our personalities.
Roger has a style about him that drives me crazy. I have described him as a party unto himself.
I mean, to him, competition is absolutely the beginning and the end of the day. And I occasionally take a few hours off. I like to tell jokes or something.
I know all of his jokes. I could do all of his jokes. And then the laughter that he supplies in case anyone else doesn't laugh. He now is calling me robo-critic. And he said, this is robo-critic, this is my opinion. He thinks I'm so stiff and proud, you know. And, you know, he's, by comparison, a bowl of Jell-O. You know, he's a Pillsbury Doughboy of criticism. I mean, you know, just touch that little button, he'll give you a little laugh, and he loved the little movie.
And it's a terrific performance, and it's a good movie.
Yes. The truth is, the Doughboy and Robo-Critic often do agree on movies, and their blunt, sensible comments have made them real people viewers trust. With an audience of some 5 million for more than 200 film reviews a year, they're among the most watched movie critics on the air.
Do you care that you have influence on whether a movie does well or not?
I'm delighted if it has an influence, and why shouldn't I be? Who am I going to let influence people? The ad agencies? That's the alternative.
Now, which movies did we lose? Leonard Part 6 is out.
And Overboard.
But despite their shared sense of responsibility to the public, they see most every encounter with each other as a chance to disagree.
How about this?
I don't think I would go that way.
This time, it's a production meeting to determine the lineup of next week's half-hour show.
I have a feeling Moonstruck should go first and Eddie Murphy should go last because it's basically a concert video.
This is the way I think I would go.
No, you still should have Eddie Murphy last in September, up higher.
No, I think you tease it into holding
But are you aware that September is the Woody Allen picture?
Yes.
Don't you think there are more people interested in the new Woody Allen picture than in a concert video of Eddie Murphy?
I think they're interested in Eddie Murphy.
And here's the preferred order.
Right. This is
At least preferred by me.
I didn't hear a single person vote for your running order. Maybe my can was fizzing too loudly.
I think your can is often fizzed too loudly.
Okay.
In a nation that loves football games and the Honeymooners reruns, their verbal scrimmages and constant bickering have helped make Siskel and Ebert pop stars.
Are you concerned that the team is better known than Gene Siskel all by himself?
Doesn't bother me. I mean, if people know me as the guy who works with that other guy, that's how I like to refer to him, the other guy, then so be it. That's okay.
The fact that I'm linked with this guy is sometimes very frustrating because I do not think of myself as part of a team. I think of myself as a complete, self-contained film critic, One-stop shopping.
Roger Ebert is the only newspaper movie critic to have won a Pulitzer Prize. He's also written books about film, teaches a course in film criticism, contributes reviews to a local Chicago television station, and has spent enough time at the Cannes Film Festival to be greeted like an equal by the film stars.
Is this as much fun as it looks like?
I don't know. I guess it is. How are you doing?
When did you buy your house?
A bachelor at age 46, Ebert is, according to Siskel, the more natural writer. As relaxed as a rumpled raincoat, he lives with 2 cats and an eclectic collection of art in a 3-story Victorian brownstone. By contrast, Gene Siskel seems more controlled. He's confined his career to the syndicated show, his newspaper columns, and a 13-year stint as movie critic on the opposing local TV station.
We're the only ones that have that footage.
Ebert calls him the more aggressive partner, dogged in trying to scoop the competition as he lines up his next interview.
We went over and this whole thing...
An interesting story about...
At 42, Siskel lives with his wife Marlene, who's his former TV producer, and their 2 small daughters in a dramatic contemporary Chicago co-op.
This is one of my treasures. Yeah.
Amidst the formal decor, one of his favorite possessions is a bit of movie memorabilia he bought at auction.
I could never fill this suit.
The 3-piece white suit actor John Travolta wore in the movie Saturday Night Fever.
This is an object unto itself.
Siskel's obsession with the suit and the movie is rooted in his unabashed passion for movies in general. And that passion is shared by his partner.
What is it about movies that you love so much?
I love the fact that it takes me out of my body, that it takes me out of my mind. You know, you read in the National Enquirer about, you know, people in Ohio who leave their bodies and they go in a spaceship to Mars, you know, and then they come back and they tell their story. That's what the movies can give you, an out-of-the-body experience.
Then take it even deeper. The lights go down. The light comes from behind your head. You're in a dreamlike state. You're looking up at a screen. It's bigger than you. You get lost in the world of the screen.
No. He's looking at you, kid.
Who couldn't love that?
The world's baldest film critic.
The world's latest film critic.
No,
What was the matter? McDonald's was open?
You're only here on time because you're late for the previous screening.
The sniping stops when the lights go down in the screening room. And the reviews that will follow have linked Siskel with Ebert in the public's mind forever, in that order.
Why is the show Siskel and Ebert? And by the way, will it ever be Ebert and Siskel?
No.
You've signed on to Siskel and
There's a long story about that, a long story. You know, I'm older. I've been a movie critic longer. E comes before S in the alphabet. I've got the Pulitzer Prize, and yet it's called Siskel and Ebert. And if you want to know why that is, you can ask Siskel.
Flip of the coin. It was a flip of the coin. I would have been more than willing to have it be Ebert and Siskel, but it will never be that way.
Why? You're willing. You're both very well known right now.
Yeah. No, it's just, it's known as Siskel and Ebert, and so it'll probably stay
You don't
that
think
way.
it could be known as Ebert and Siskel?
Nah, it'd never work.
Maybe not.
Too bad.
But Siskel and Ebert wouldn't work either if their hostility excluded all other feelings.
Roger's a tad brighter than Gene.
That's right.
And while the competition keeps them both sharp, it turns out that's founded in mutual respect and even, dare we say it, affection.
It's kind of like a marriage or like a sibling rivalry. And it goes into phases. There'll be a couple of weeks in which we practically can't stand the sight of each other. Then a couple of weeks in which we're co-conspirators against the rest of the world. And it's gone on like this for 11 years. You know, there are times when I can't stand him, but I don't know what I'd do without him.
Roger is honest and a good critic, and that's the most important thing. And if I ever needed him for a personal reason, he would be there for me. Still, he drives me crazy.
When you're wrapping yourself in the flag of the sophisticated film critic who's seen it all.
No, boredom. Boredom with
I don't
Benji
think
running.
that any, so it's not fair for you to compare this to shot. And it pushes in. The whole thing off. Crossing the street and every shot you put
That was half a year ago. Now, is there any change in their relationship?
I think the answer's got to be no. We just talked to them again, and they said that their relationship never changes. It never gets better. It never gets worse. And they both said It's not that we dislike each other. We dislike each other's behavior. And by the way, having said that, they then argued as to who made up the line.
Well, now, Lynn, it's July. And what movies are they recommending for the summer season?
Well, believe it or not, this is one area where they are together. Siskel and Ebert both agree on what are the best summer movies.
I believe in long, slow, deep, soft, wet kisses that last 3 days.
The two best summer movies are Who Framed Roger Rabbit and Bull Durham, both adult, sexy comedies, even though one's animated. I really thought they were both great.
Chicago gets it first. I have my honor.
They did not agree over Red Heat.
I liked Red Heat a lot more than you did.
No, yes, you did.
I think, well, I mean, I think it's because I was able to see humor where you were unable to see it. You know, your criticism of the movie was that Arnold Schwarzenegger played it too straight and that he was dry and humorless.
How do you Soviets deal with all the tension and stress? Vodka.
In observing that in his character, you correctly saw that that's what he was doing, but you missed the fact that that's what was funny. In other words, the Soviet bureaucrat in Chicago teamed up with a slob of a Chicago cop. You know.
That's funny, right?
Yes, well, the contract...
The way you've expressed it, I'm sure the audience is convulsed with laughter right as you've talked right now.
Well, I haven't been trying to amuse them, and I don't know why you're smiling, but you're laughing anyways.
No, I know you haven't tried to amuse them.
You missed the whole point of the humor, and the funny thing is, there's no use debating it, because humor is undebatable. If you didn't laugh, it wasn't funny for you.
No. What I'm just saying is that this is what would have meant better, is if Jim Belushi's character, the sloppy Chicago cop, and not the athlete that Schwarzenegger is playing, if he had been able to dominate Schwarzenegger, that might have been amusing. But instead, Arnold, because he's the big star, had to have the focus of the movie be on him. And unfortunately, I think Belushi's character, the best parts probably were on the cutting room floor. Not an interesting picture. Red Heat, it will be forgotten within months, if not days, if not minutes. What's the title of that movie?
Well, as you can see, Hugh, they're still at it.
Sure are. Thank you, Lynn. Well, when we come back, again, airline safety. Tom Jarrell with a status report on Eastern and Continental Airlines.
Up to $2,000 cash back from Subaru is worth more than the same money from anyone else. It's worth more because Subaru builds a rugged, reliable wagon that's the best-selling import wagon in America. It's worth more because Subaru's XT6 has the same engine design found in a Ferrari or a Porsche. It's worth more because the Subaru Justy is the lowest-priced four-wheel drive passenger car in America. Up to $2,000 cash back on a Subaru is worth more because it's on a Subaru.
Big news! McDonald's Supersize Cups now feature the stars of Who Framed Roger Rabbit.
I'm a coon!
Now at McDonald's, for a limited engagement, appearing on 3 different supersized Coca-Cola cups, the stars of the new movie, Who Framed Roger Rabbit.
Good time, great taste. Supersize makes it my place. The good time, great taste of McDonald's. Big fun!
What's this remind you of? A Kmart Glidden paint sale, right? Me too. And this? You got it. A 2,000 square foot Northern Products log home you could win. And where can you get both?
At Kmart, the saving place and more.
I knew that.
You've suffered through all kinds of diets and regimens. But if you don't get enough protein when you're dieting to lose fat, you might lose muscle. Protein can help you keep muscle while you lose fat. And Special K has the highest level of dietary protein available in a cereal. So one reason for including the under 200 calories Special K breakfast in a balanced diet is rather obvious. Special K. Keep the muscle. Lose the fat.
Mom, send $500 soon, or there won't be a honeymoon.
To send money fast, come to Western Union. It'll get to any of our 10,000 locations, usually in 15 minutes or less. Western Union, the fastest way to send money.
Happy birthday, America, from Run DMC, Pia Zadora, Steve Gutenberg, the Pointer Sisters, Rob Lowe, Earth, Wind, and Fire, Glenn Campbell, Kool and the Gang, and more. Join the stars from coast to coast when Patrick Duffy and Joanna Kearns host the 2nd annual Star Spangled Celebrations, Sunday.
About 2 months ago, in our story, Flying Close to the Edge, we presented a major investigation of the Western world's largest airline system, Texas Air Corporation. After our story, and possibly as a result of it, The Federal Aviation Administration, the FAA, and the Department of Transportation began a joint investigation. This dramatic step included sending FAA inspectors to the gates where Eastern and Continental planes were parked and checking them out in what's called ramp inspections. Well, recently, the government report was issued, and tonight, Tom Gerald tells us where things stand now.
Our investigation focused on the charges that Texas Air, which includes Eastern and Continental Airlines, was compromising the margin of safety on some of its airplanes and pressuring pilots and mechanics to operate aircraft they considered unsafe. After the 2020 investigation, Texas Air mounted a massive campaign here in Washington, hiring some of the top lobbyists in town in what was described as the largest effort ever seen by an airline to improve its image. Texas Air sent letters to every employee charging that union leaders were trying to destroy the company and urged the workers to complain about the 2020 broadcast. Hundreds of letters poured in. Some, like this one from an Atlanta man, said the investigation was, quote, a perfect example of how low journalism has sunk. Others praised the report, like this one in which one flight attendant said, quote, I prayed on all takeoffs and landings at Continental because safety was being compromised. Just days after our report, the federal government decided to inspect every one of Eastern and Continental's aircraft. The findings?
We found no particular problems, no financial pressures at Continental, no problems at the Texas Air parent level. But we did find what we characterized as an unprecedented level of labor management hostility inside Eastern Airlines that could at some point create a safety problem.
More than 10% of the Eastern and Continental fleet was taken out of service, at least temporarily, during the inspection for a variety of violations, and fines amounting to as much as $2 million may be levied against them. But the inspection also found that both airlines are, quote, safe to fly, unquote. The head of Texas Air, Frank Lorenzo.
We're pleased that this 30-day ramp safety investigation of Eastern and Continental confirms that these airlines are absolutely safe and absolutely fit.
But here are some issues raised in the 2020 investigation that were not addressed in the Department of Transportation and FAA inspections. First, detailed internal records at Continental showing a pattern where key systems were not operating properly aboard aircraft. Second, the case of Captain John Knutson, who was grounded for refusing to fly an aircraft that he considered unsafe. And finally, the case of Harry Langdon, a former FAA inspector, whose findings about unsafe conditions at Continental in 1984 were overruled at the upper levels of the FAA. In Congress, top aviation experts think the government needs to do a top-to-bottom inspection of Texas Air.
The ramp inspections are not a very thorough inspection. It's a kicking the tires, looking at the airplane to see if there's any fluids leaking or anything of that nature. Our primary objective is to assure the airline passenger. I don't want them to think about, is it safe to fly brand A, B, C, X, or Y? To me, when they buy a ticket, they should have that assurance that all airlines are safe.
Tom, is the government going to do anything else after these surface inspections?
Hugh, William Brock, former Labor Secretary, is looking into the possibility that the union management friction is so great at Eastern that it might pose a future safety danger to the flying public. He is going to see if he can resolve that between union and management. If he can't, Congress is ready, willing, and has a mechanism to step in and take charge.
Thank you, Tom. Well, now let's see what Ted Koppel has for us on tonight's Nightline. Ted?
Hugh, in modern times at least, the Soviet people have never seen anything like it. Angry debate in public, open criticism of their leaders. The Soviet Party Conference. Now that it's over, what did it produce? Hugh?
Thank you, Ted. That's Nightline after your local news. And that's 2020 for tonight. Remember, we're in touch, so you be in touch. And on behalf of Barbara and everyone here, have a great 4th. Good night.
Susan, can we talk?
Sure, Dad.
You notice anything different about Mom?
She's acting pretty wild for her age.
Well, I don't just mean the roller skates.
And the motor scooter. She even borrowed my new dress. Come on, Dad, what is it?
A balanced diet with the right vitamin nutrition helps people get more out of life. Some are finding Kellogg's Product 19. 100% of 12 vitamins and minerals. Feel good about yourself.
Not the, rubber dress.
Feel like 19 again.
It's a baseball explosion on the 4th of July. The St. Louis Cardinals head west to take on the front-running Los Angeles Dodgers. Celebrate the 4th on ABC's Monday Night Baseball.
Coming up next, it's Channel 2's Action News. Stay tuned. Stay on top of Convention 88 with Georgia's news leader. Channel 2's Action News.
Celebrate July 4th with WSB Television's Salute to America Parade. Join us downtown on Peachtree Street or watch at home. You'll see Dynasty's John James, Bull Buchanan from One Life to Live.
Coming up on Action News, the jury has reached a verdict on whether Rudy Lee Bromley should get life in prison or death for the murder of Amy Holman.
The nationally syndicated show helps the FBI get its suspects in the murder of a Rich's department store security guard.
And the Defense Department stops payment to some companies implicated in the Pentagon purchasing scandal.
And as we go into the July 4th holiday weekend, Peter Bannon gives us a Lake Lanier preview.
Glenn Burns will have the holiday weather, and Chuck Dottle is trying to keep up with the Braves. You think he could? Next on Action News.
Making fried chicken means toting a heavy skillet and slopping up your kitchen. Children, what we're talking is not fun. So get some Church's chicken instead. Big pieces of crispy chicken, they don't cost a lot. So someone expects you to cook when there is Church's chicken? Well, pick up that old skillet and you persuade them otherwise.
Get Church's 10-piece family feast with corn for only $9.99.
Nobody outsells Ford in the Southland. And now, during our Ford Leadership Sales Drive, we're out to sell every Ford Escort in stock. Some specially equipped 88.5 models come with free factory air conditioning, automatic transmission, electronic AM/FM stereo, rear window defroster, digital clock, dual electric remote mirrors, power steering and brakes, and more. Retail price, including cash back from Ford, just $84.96. Before you